Okay, before I go on and talk about this week's materials, the notes and lectures, it occurs to me that I did leave something out that I should have covered earlier. I want to go back to the syllabus. And in the syllabus, I want to go down here to the assignments and quizzes, all these policies that you see here. So first of all, let's talk about these quizzes and exams. I'll zoom in here. And on the quizzes and exams, you'll see that students must be present in any in-class test. However, we're not in class, so that really is not applicable. If you're late quizzes, the deduction is 10% per day, with a partial day counting as a full day. Same thing for assignments. So all assignments need to be in on time. Otherwise, there is a penalty for being late. Finally, I want to talk about this participation policy. Since we are not in class, see, participation is similar to attendance. Since we're not actually in class, what I'm going to do is, if there's a discussion in a particular week, your participation in that discussion will count toward participation points. Typically, half of it for your initial post and half of it for a follow-up post. If there's no discussion, and most of the weeks in this class do not have a discussion, then it all depends on how you turn stuff in. So, if you turn in, let's see if I can back up here. Let's say that in week 1, there are 3 items. Worksheet 1, Worksheet 2, and the quiz that are all due. So if let's say that you don't turn in Worksheet 2 by the due date, but you do turn in Worksheet 1 and the quiz by the due date, then you'll get 33% of your participation points from this, 33% from that, and you'll lose 33% of it for this one. So you would get 6.67, or I should say 6.67 out of 10 for that week, because 2 of the items were turned in on time. That's the way that works. Alright, now having said that, let's go into week 2 and into the notes and video lectures. The first thing I'm going to do in week 2 is to introduce 10, this says 9, I know, the video says 9, and I've since added a 10th one. But I'm going to introduce 10 different places that we do configurations in Windows 10. The control panel, MMC snap-ins, the settings app. Then there are standalone desktop applications. This should say CLEANMGR, by the way. I see that I wrote that incorrectly. The registry, and then internal command line commands, PowerShell commands, and then the command line external commands. Those are executable files, but they don't run in GUIs. They run in the command line or in PowerShell. And then the task manager, that's that thing you hit when you hit Control-Alt-Delete. And then finally configuration files, which are just text files that you edit in order to change configurations of things. So these are the 10 basic ways that configuration is done. And then each of these tools that we talk about as we go on here will typically be in one of those 10 formats. So let's take a look at what we're going to be looking at. Administrative tools, which you'll typically find in the control panel. There are some other places. And I've given you here what these look like. See, these are standalone apps. These are MMC snap-ins and so on. And then the computer manager. And computer manager is all in the form of MMC snap-ins. And you'll see what MMC is when you get to these videos and this area. Ease of access, which you can find both in the control panel and in the settings app. So lots of ease of access stuff here. Power settings, which is different on your laptop and on your desktop computers. And Windows 10 recognizes the difference and gives you different options. So for example, if it's on a laptop, you have an option of what do you want to happen when you close the lid. Do you want to go to sleep or shut down? Things like that. File Explorer settings. So File Explorer is just that big window where you can explore your system. And there are settings now. For example, if I click View and Options, I've got lots of different settings that I can make regarding File Explorer and how it behaves. User profiles, so your accounts. So we'll talk about that this week. We'll talk about some display settings, and then personalization. And you notice that those are separate. If I right-click somewhere here on my desktop, I've got display settings and I've got personalize. So they're different things. Now if I can make this thing go away. And then the taskbar personalization. So this is the taskbar down here. And if I right-click in here and go to, okay, it doesn't want to cooperate because of my video. It keeps going away again. But anyway, I can go to settings in there, and I can do it through the settings app, which is where that takes me, by the way. If I just type taskbar like that, I see taskbar settings. So this is where, if I could right click and click it, this is where I can set up various settings for the taskbar. Taskbar toolbars, which a lot of people are not aware of, but you can actually add toolbars down here on the taskbar, and I've shown you where to do that. Notifications, which is this thing way down here in the bottom corner. This is the notifications area. I don't have any notifications right now, and then we have some quick settings on there as well now, which I've shown you here. Native applications. By native applications, I mean those things that are built into Windows, but they're not part of the operating system. Things like the clock, the calendar, the Cortana, the Edge browser. These are just applications that are added to Windows on the side. And then the Edge browser itself, we'll talk about Cortana. We'll talk about Hyper-V, which is a built-in hypervisor for being able to run virtual machines. Now, normally you won't find Hyper-V right away. You have to add that feature, but we'll talk about that later. msconfig, which is one of those apps. Let's type it here. If I just type msconfig, you notice it says system configuration, and that takes me to this standalone application here where I can change things like how the computer boots and services and startup tools and so on. Task Manager. And then finally, Windows Mobility Center. I think that's finally, no, it's not. In Windows Mobility Center, we also talked about offline files. So if you're connected to a domain, for example, you can take files with you if you are traveling. So for example, a traveling salesman might need some files when they're not connected to their home computers. And then Windows PowerShell and PowerShell ISE. So that's it. Those are the things. That's a lot to cover this first week, but you can do it, and I hope that you enjoy.